This is Ira, and welcome to Ocean Liners on Print, where I time travel through ocean liner history via ocean liner memorabilia. Today, we will uncover perspectives through ocean liner ads. Stay with me to the end of the video for priceless marital advice. I promise it will be worth your while. I hope you enjoy.
Quote, New York to and from California, direct via Havana through Panama Canal. 3 great new turbo-electric liners, the largest steamers ever built under the American flag, the SS California, SS Virginia, and SS Pennsylvania. All outside rooms, many with baths. Close quote. Having all outside rooms and many with baths is definitely a bragging right, as most ships did not have all outside rooms. Outside rooms or outside staterooms are those that have portholes. Virtually most ships have many outside rooms and they have a number of inside rooms. The inside rooms have no source of natural light. The ad mentions cabins or staterooms with baths. At this time, most ships still offered private baths to a fraction of their cabins, and yet it does not specify what percentage of cabins have private baths in this ad. In addition, this ad mentions special garage decks for passengers' autos taken uncrated as baggage. So back in the day, a number of passengers would have their cars shipped with them so that they could use them on their vacation. I don't know how cost effective that was, because this is obviously a very expensive process. And the question is, would you be better off renting a car? Panama Pacific Line happened to be a division of the International Mercantile Marine Company, or IMM. One of the most famous, if not most famous, divisions of the IMM was the White Star Line of Titanic fame. In this ad, what was the California, Virginia, and Pennsylvania now belong to the Moore McCormick lines, with the names changed to the Brazil, Uruguay, and Argentina. These ships were coined by the Moore McCormick line as the Good Neighbor liners, offering 38-day cruises to South America from New York. Just take a moment to look at the scene on the deck above of one of the Moore McCormick ships, and just note the fashions and the sense of formality in the middle of the day. After the Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay were retired from Moore McCormick, the Moore McCormick lines introduced their next and final generation of cruise ships, being the Argentina and Brazil. So here they were introducing a cruise to the Baltic and North Sea. Quote, vanish into Viking country for a while. Follow the ancient sea lanes of legend and history through the beautiful Baltic and North Seas this summer. 35 glorious days. Close quote. Take a look at the bottom, and you'll see that the advertising agency for Moore McCormick lines took some liberties where it says you get much more with Moore McCormick lines. Nothing like a good sense of humor. Here, the Matson lines in 1931 introducing their brand new first of 3 sister ships to serve the Pacific, which happens to be the Mariposa. This ship not only served the Matson lines in 1931 until the beginning of World War II, it served as a troop carrier, and then it served as the home lines as the Homeric. It says, 19 strange ports, and 14 exotic lands for $1,250. I love how it says strange. Today, instead of saying strange ports, one could say exciting, interesting, cultural, unique, but not strange. The Canadian Pacific Line here is introducing the brand new Empress of Britain of 1956. This is not the first Empress of Britain. In fact, the previous Empress of Britain of 1930 was one of the largest casualties of World War II. That Empress of Britain had 3 funnels and was the largest ship ever under the Canadian Pacific flag. As this was the 1950s, ships were still being constructed that offered multiple classes, and here it describes first class and tourist class. When people think transatlantic travel, they think of traveling between New York and Europe. Canadian Pacific says, quote, "The thrill of sailing the historic landscape route down the St. Lawrence to Europe. Enjoy 1/3 less ocean travel, 1,000 sheltered miles of romantic river scenery," close quote. So here, Canadian Pacific is talking about the route from Montreal to Europe and Europe to Montreal as an alternative. The Empress of Britain of 1956 was eventually sold to the Greek Line and named the Queen Anna Maria. After the Greek Line went bankrupt, the Queen Anna Maria was eventually sold to the Carnival Cruise Line and was named Carnival, which was the second ship of the Carnival Cruise Line. Here, you can cruise Europe for as little as $16 a day. Sign me up! But this was back in the early 1960s, so the money was worth a lot more. So this was for the Atlantic of the American export lines. Here, a 24-day cruise is being promoted that goes from New York to the Mediterranean. To stay true to the picture on the top, it says, quote, "Entertainment, real Spanish flamenco dancers, parties, deck sports, first-run movies, wonderful food, dancing nightly to Meyer Davis Orchestra," close quote. The ad mentions stabilizers for full comfort. So this is definitely a bragging right because many ships in the late 1950s and early 1960s lacked stabilizers. In fact, in the 1950s, the Queen Elizabeth and Queen Mary were retrofitted with stabilizers. Seasickness was and continues to be an issue that can deter people from choosing a cruise for their vacation. And here, the Atlantic hoped to have solved that problem with stabilizers. In addition, by being fully air conditioned and having all staterooms with private facilities, this particular ship had a lot of bragging rights. While all the ads shown in this presentation tell stories, this particular ad tells such a story, I feel I have to quote the entire ad. So this is from the American export ones, promoting specifically the Constitution and the Independence. And the tagline reads, "This man is a sailor." Quote, "He didn't learn his trade besides the helm. He learned it at the Waldorf Astoria and at the Ritz-Carlton and at O'Kay's on the Champs-Élysées, where more than 20 years ago, he started serving wine. He is Henry Sergei, a wine steward of the SS Constitution, the world-famous wine expert. Alexis Lachin rates the wine cellars of the Constitution and Independence among the greatest ashore or afloat. And Mr. Sergei can advise you wisely on every precious bottle whether it be a simple Vino de Pasto, a fine Chateau bottled Bordeaux, one of the great estate bottled Burgundies, or a superb Rangot, Moselle, or vintage Champagne. It's men like Henry Sergei with many different specialties and skills who make great crews and happy ships. Such men have won that sea-going accolade for the big Sunliners, Independence, and Constitution. They're happy ships. Close quote. This ad depicts an amazing story of how special the qualifications of the crew members of the Constitution and Independence were. We're saving the best for last. The next ad is from the days of the Depression, where financial fortunes were lost in minutes, causing tremendous psychological pressures. Quote, "These days, more than ever, watch your husband." Close quote. Look at the expression of the woman looking at, assumingly, the hand of her husband, who is probably crunching numbers and holding the stock exchange quote page of the newspaper. I'm sure one would find it difficult to find an ad that plays on emotion the way this one does. Quote, "Days of business tension, market calculation, days and nights of nervous strain, unceasing worry. Now more than ever, watch your husband, where worry fails, but winter respite winds sail away on a comfort, restful cruise by White Star or Red Star Line with your husband." Close quote. As a result of this ad, how many wives persuaded their husbands to take them on a voyage on the White Star Line as the cure-all for financial worries during the Depression? If there's one thing that I will always remember from this ad is the expression of the wife. Just take a look at her face for a moment.
What was your favorite pearl from this presentation? The deck scene on the Moore McCormick ship? You get so much more with Moore McCormick lines? Sailing the historic landscape route down the St. Lawrence to Europe? Flamenco dancers? The story of the wine steward of the Constitution? Watching your husband? Please place your comments in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this presentation, hit the subscribe button to enable receipt of alerts for new engaging ocean liner content. Thank you from Ocean Liners on Print.